Hello. Sorry. So yeah, there hasn't been one of these in a while. I've been busy. What can I say? So yeah, we're gonna do quite a few things here. Mainly going over the speed doxathon layouts. And there'll be some changes. Sorry for starting almost an hour late. The kind of thing I used to restream to both YouTube and Twitch was not working correctly, which was unfortunate, and I had to switch over to a different thing. And honestly, I need to kind of change the way things work there too, because YouTube treats live streams and video uploads separately. So I need to kind of combine those two into a playlist. Or honestly, I've been thinking of cutting down the live streams into smaller bite-sized chunks, little highlights. So anyways, let's kind of get things going here. Yay, this is working. So um, this is the final speed doxathon thing, as you can see. All the kind of layouts are here. Just fun times. That's a bug that I need to fix. But basically, everything that I did before, I chopped it up. We use nodeCG and speed control. And this is how things kind of look like once you get things going. So, you import your runs here. This is all the speed control portion. Your runs are here. You can edit them if need be. Everything's here. This doesn't work because we were on OBS 26 and WebSockets is broken, so we didn't use that. This is a custom panel that I made here, along with this here, some basic coding. Basically, this lets you update the intermission host. So currently it says CC Neverember, but if I were to put in dark Aries and I were to hit update, boom, that's now updated. Let's push that. Okay, it's just gonna stay small. That's fine. Anyways, you'll notice that the text kind of snaps in and out. I can explain that in just a second. There we go. I just wanted the text to be big again so you guys can kind of see it better. So basically, a lot of this text are spans and a flex. And if you don't understand web development, what does that mean? It basically means that it creates a span is just like some text, specific little chunk of text. So this is just like a little thing of text. Every single line here is a little thing of text you have individual control over. And flex turns this into something where it basically centers it right in the middle of these elements here. And the problem is the code that I have to resize to change the font size to match the width here. It doesn't work with flexes because flexes turn the width instead of it saying like, oh, I have this whole width right here. Whatever the text is, it's just like, well, that's the width I have. So it would never actually resize correctly. So what my kind of quick and dirty fix was that it would change the text and then it would, and I can actually showcase this here. Right. Something. Yes. Okay, that's fine. Text is right there, right? So if we go to the start, you'll see that all this kind of disappears or not. If we choose this Spyro, right? Everything updates, boom, it snaps into place. So basically my kind of quick and dirty fix was that it changes the text, it removes the flex property from all the text, it resizes to fit in the box, and then it gives it the flex property again to center it all into place. And you can see that every single time you kind of change the game, it will do that, as that was my fix. And honestly, the timing's kind of whack because it's only like 3/4 of a second. And personally, I think that might be a bit too small because it's not Like this font can potentially be a lot bigger right here. So I would probably have to make it a second or even a second and a half to do it correctly. But I'm looking into ways of just getting rid of this whole problem altogether, because there are other layouts that use nodeCG and speed control that, of course, also kind of center all their text and don't have this problem. So I probably will need to figure something out, but that was my quick and dirty fix for that for now. And you can see this kind of on all the every single layout here, which is pretty cool. Now this one doesn't have a background, and you'll notice that actually in all of these. No, where is it? Hold on. I decoupled the background from the nodeCG portion. If you remember the previous video I did, where I was kind of quickly showcasing how you go about converting graphics like this as a start to like kind of do everything, I had the background there. If we take a look though, and we go to graphics, and let's say we go to our 4x3 layout, nothing's here. Well, there is. It's just all white over white, because technically the background's transparent. That's why you can see it in here, but you can't see here until I highlight it. And the reason for that was because this machine, because this isn't actually my own machine, this is the NASA Restream PC. Little NASA stuff right there, right? You can barely tell. It runs Linux, as you can see. This is actually Peppermint, which is a very lightweight Linux flavor based off of Ubuntu Mint stuff. It's kind of basically Ubuntu if it was Chrome OS. Everything just kind of relies on the browser. So it's a very lightweight, because this computer itself is only like a i7-4770. It's a older generation, and it only has like a NVIDIA 1050 in it. So it's not the most powerful machine, but for restreaming, it gets the job done. The big thing here, though, is that all these web pages are actually ran in Chromium, or Chrome. And that's how OBS does all their whole thing. The browser is actually based off of Chromium. So there is no hardware acceleration for web browsing in Chromium in Linux, because reasons. So to overcome that, I decoupled the background so that way OBS, using the graphics card, composites the text with the background and everything, and that kind of led to a lot smoother of an event this time in comparison to NASA 2020, where I had the browser composite all the graphics, and that was just not fun. You had to be very careful, and I had to do a lot of optimizing around everything to make sure that we don't drop frames. And this time I decoupled it, and it was a lot smoother. And it should actually be even smoother going forward, because I found a couple more things as well to clean up. If you're wondering why Linux, I didn't originally think this, bunch of stuff would happen and that there would be time to convert to nodeCG kind of layouts. But that's kind of how that works. How does this work from under the hood is probably what you're wondering. And we can take a look into that. So, nodeCG has bundles. And here is our SDAT bundle, right? Graphics. As you can see, there's all of our web pages here. Timer is a separate page, so that way it can be decoupled from everything. It uses an extra Tiltify bundle created by Zotan. Zotan also made the speed control bundle. For the donation total at the bottom, that live updates when you configure it to the right Tiltify campaign. So that was pretty cool. But let's take a look at, for example, our intermission page. We're going to edit this in a text editor. This might be hard to see, but basically, there's our whole website that we made. There's the code that resizes everything. It's called fitty.js, and basically you give it a minimum and a maximum size, and you give it the span. That's what I was talking about, that specific thing of text, and it will resize that to the parameters of the box that it's inside. If we take a look here, right, we have span intermission, okay? Intermission host. So, and it's inside this div, okay? Which is inside this div. Fitty is kind of weird where it needs to have an empty div between the kind of compositive box. Like, so the way that works is like a div is a box, and then the span is inside the box. But Fitty doesn't work correctly unless there's an empty box in between your styled box and the text. So that's why it kind of looks weird like that. Basically, it resizes this to fit inside of this, which is pretty cool. But again, the problem is that because it's flex, we have, it's not on the page, it's in a different page. That will kind of remove it, re-add it, kind of things like that. But overall, this portion is very simple. As you can see here, it's just kind of all these boxes that split up the intermission. Essentially, there's it's split in two right here. Split in two right here up until this point. This is its own box, this intermission. This half of the box here has a little box where this is in, and then this half of the box has 1, 2, 3 little boxes here. So just visually, that's how it's broken up. And actually, if I zoom out a little bit, you can kind of, let me go to intermission. You can kind of see this actually. Oh, I left the background on there. Oops. You can kind of see this happen here where this is one box, and that's another box, and that's a third box. This text is really tiny, so I apologize. But see, that's its own box. That's a spacer, and then that's its own box. That's another spacer, and that's its own box. So these boxes here have the text inside of it, and Fitty makes it all fit in there. So that's cool. That's kind of from the first portion when we broke apart all those pages. That's what this led to. But there's also the actual grabbing of this information. Because when we see here in our main page, we have all these runs with information and everything like that. How do we pull this game title, the category, the runner, the estimate, all this fancy stuff? How do we pull all that information? And we do that with some JavaScript. So the main piece of code that we use is actually this runinfo.js, and this looks really daunting. Can I bump up the font size? That's a good question. I don't think so, which kind of sucks. But anyways, you'll see there is a lot of variables right here that correspond to the different elements. So if we take a look at intermission, we have intermission host, game intermission, up next runner, on deck runner, all this stuff, right? And if we actually open up just the regular layout, you'll see that there's current game category, estimate box, the runner, and all. So this piece of code deals with all of that. This kind of opens everything up. Anything that you see speed control, that hooks into that speed control bundle, which then pulls all the information from here. Okay. Oops. Where's my text editor? Found my text editor. And then we have a lot of code here where it's like, update the values when the game changes, everything like that. This is my nightmare code here. Essentially what this does is it just it properly goes through a team because runners are in teams, and it will pull for races and single player runs and races and co-ops and all that stuff. It properly just breaks out all the names and spits them out into the variables that we see up top. And then, here's my really jank code where just after a second or whatever the time is, can't see because it's like a reddish pink, purpley color. It just adds the class, and this removes it. So basically, like when the game changes, remove it, but then after a second, re-add it. There's code that deals with the finish times on the races as well. So all this is just jQuery JavaScripting. So with as a final thing, I'll show the kind of styling as well. These are all the boxes that I was talking about earlier, where they have different heights and they have different widths to kind of make everything go. And that kind of is the quick and dirty of how these layouts work from kind of like a back end perspective. I really thought this was going to take a lot longer, but I don't have a lot more to say. Don't know what else I can do. Yeah, and I guess showcase some of the stuff like runner alpha. What is runner alpha? That's just a VLC source because everybody streams to like a local RTMP, right? Yeah, I really thought this would take a lot longer, and I've only talked for about 17 more minutes, or 17-ish minutes. So oh, no problem, Dexter. I am glad that somebody finds this useful, considering a lot of marathons use this kind of nodeCG stuff now. Like this dashboard, you'll see almost at every marathon now. I really wish I could get this button working, but that would have required to use OBS 25. And OBS 26 has so much fancy stuff here. Like this bar is so useful because you can quickly change the image. If I pick a source, yeah, see, this is a video right here, and you can pause it, stop it. These videos here, I can. It should be playing. Why is it not? Oh, they probably deleted the videos on me. That would explain it. Yeah, they deleted the videos, and that's a crash, so I should actually report that as a bug. But yeah, that media bar is just super, super useful, among other changes that got put into place here. So I will definitely have more interesting stuff to go over next stream. Long time I was on OBS 21, just recently updated to 25. Ooh, yeah, that's a big change. OBS 26 actually has a lot of stuff too under the hood with how is this at 30? Gosh darn it, Quo. Is this really a 30? Ah. Oh well. With some color stuff that will make VODs a lot better and everything like that. But yeah, 26 also has a lot of cool stuff. So once it becomes stable, that'll be super awesome. But yeah, actually for in the close future, I am getting an A10 Mini Pro So that'll be a fun unboxing half review stream that I'll do eventually when it comes in. Along with some other fancy stuff. I mean, if there's any questions about anything, feel free to ask them. I really don't have too much else to go over with these layouts. I did not expect to kind of just fly through it all that quickly. Actually, I might as well show how a race works here very quickly. Whoop. So we pick a race, which would be, what was a race here? Near Automata. So if we click that, we can now have both those races, which has to do with all that code that was in the background, everything. And if I start, I hit check mark, that's for player 1, player 2. You'll see that I have these little race timers that I very crudely made to work. Of course, the race isn't done because player 3 is still going, but this isn't a 3-player layout. So that's why you don't see it. But yeah, every single layout's kind of dynamically set up for that. So it doesn't matter what's going on. Just end it right there. And if something doesn't work, or, oh, that person didn't actually finish. If you hit that undo button, then the little timer disappears from here and it continues going. So there's a lot of fancy stuff in these nodeCG speed control based layouts that are a lot more flexible, because earlier, you'd be editing every single text file to kind of make this would be its own text file, that's a text file, that's a text file, that's another text file, that's a text file. This would be like live split. I know this is a very weird request, but can you add players on the fly? You actually can. Actually, when a person is, well, actually, let's try that out. So if this is going, you go run modifications, edit currently active run. If I add a new player, I just add myself. Yeah, I just added a new racer, so that is entirely possible. You can, in fact, just add a runner in the middle of a race as it's going. And not that any of these layouts are set up for that, but it's my code which spits out all the runners into different kind of different identified spans would work in theory. In practice, it's probably completely broken as soon as I try something like this, but it should be able to handle. So if I created a page that has, because if we open up a race right here, oops, that's the CSS. I don't want the CSS. I want the HTML. So as you can see here, there is a runner 1 and a runner 2. So I could flip it over to a runner 3 or runner 4. Actually, without breaking too much, let's try this. This is the real test of my code. Can I handle a runner 3 and a runner 4? No, it cannot, because I don't have the rest of that code in the runner info stuff. But if I did it, it would probably work. We'll just put that back to normal for now. But yeah, so it does seem that nodeCG is flexible enough that you can just add or remove a runner in the middle of a race, which is pretty cool. I did not think it would do that, but it can. Oh, this donations incentive panel, I didn't really go over it, but it's kind of, I made it myself. It's very crude. But if you were to need to update these, because this doesn't actually pull from Tiltify or any tracker. It's just all manual because having that automated is a lot of effort. So you just copy and paste your game and your incentive there, and that would appear. So, if I get rid of that and I hit update, I go to the intermission, it updates that, and it's blank now, right? But that's a lot of copying and pasting if you get rid of the kind of the oldest incentive at the top here. So I actually made a shuffle up button, which will shuffle the incentives up and you can shuffle it. But in case you screwed up, all you have to do is when you hit that and you didn't mean to, all you have to do is refresh the page and it saves them back there. So this, unlike this intermission host, which it doesn't keep track of what the current host is, this absolutely keeps track of the current incentives. So that way, no matter who kind of accesses this panel, they know exactly what intermissions are going to be on the intermission screen. But yeah, this kind of text shuffling and text not being big enough, I will kind of try to fix for next time because it's a slight annoyance. Well, that's good. Like, realistically, this system isn't very hard, which I think is why a lot of marathons use it, actually. Because this is very kind of dummy proof. Like, hit play to start the timer, Oh, I screwed up. Reset the timer. Oh, I accidentally said somebody was done, undo. Um, and those kind of functions even still work on a single player run. Like I can do that. I can say they completed it. Oh, the nice part is the timer always knows where you are too. So even if I say I'm done and it's at 9 seconds, but I screwed up, it goes back to what the time would be. So that's a very simple thing. This, oh yeah, it's auto syncing the games to NASA Twitch. Um, this portion's all dummy proofed. It automatically just grabs the name and everything like that. You can configure how it sets up the titles for Twitch as well, hit an ad, very simple stuff. If you need to add a game as well, you can just add new run, fill out all the information here. If you need to reorder a run, you can just drag them. So it's all super kind of bomb proofed here. You can even edit a scene. No, you kind of don't need to use it all the time, but if you're doing a race, no, if you're doing a race, you can edit in which order the runners appear. So in case you have things set up wrong or somebody's on the wrong team or whatnot, you can fix that. Which is really the only thing that this is for in a speedrun sense. At least from what I've noticed. Potentially there could be other things. This button, when it works, you would hit it and it would go straight from a run to the intermission screen, and it would also play an ad. So that's kind of like an OBS macro button right there. It would also jump to the next game here as well. So you would just do one button and boom. So there's a lot of dummy proofing going on here. And it makes life a lot easier. When you look at these layouts, they look complicated, but it's just the runner. There's a little animation that they have for the sponsor kind of sponsor ad spot thing. Um, the all the text, the VLC source of the stream, the webcam cover, and the background image. How I've set this up. I'm just kind of going through all of it. But yeah, from a usability standpoint, it's definitely a lot easier compared to what a lot of online free streams used to be, because it used to be a lot of text files and manually editing things. But now it's as long as you put in the effort into coding in the layouts, and you don't even have to necessarily code in the layouts. What a lot of people do is a nodeCG speed control simple. And what that does is it's all of this, and there's just separate HTML files. So instead of having like a player 4.3, because this is all custom stuff that I set up, including this chat runner thing, which is super nifty because it lets Quo's bot grab the runner names. And this isn't their runner names, but actually their Twitch names. So that way his chat bot can spit out the FFZ. So it's basically like a souped up FFZ follow, which is pretty cool. But you would just have separate text files that only have like a runner or the game category, and then you would just add those as a browser source in OBS. But then you'd have like a bunch of browser sources here. It's kind of interesting. I mean, you can put them into groups and kind of hide everything, but you know, if you don't really code, that's probably the easiest way to go. I do web dev, kind of, maybe, sort of. So converting everything to be these standalone HTML web pages is just easier for me and a lot neater. So okay, well, I talked for at least half an hour, so at least it was worth somebody's time. Yeah, I'll probably, in this case, I actually recorded, so I'll probably just chop up I'll hide the YouTube VOD of the stream and I'll just put up this video instead. And I'm probably going to make highlights of the previous 2 streams that I had, which is testing out PSP video and the first half of these layouts. Just kind of like little highlight things. And hopefully I get my A10 Mini Pro in soon. If you don't know what an A10 Mini Pro is, let me just pull that up very quickly. It is this thing where it takes 1, 2, 3, 4 HDMI inputs. It has a multi-viewer out, USB out, so you can use it as a webcam. It has this Ethernet port, which you can use for control, but it also streams out, you know, physical buttons to switch between your sources. It has little audio inputs as well. You can do picture-in-picture and, you know, transitions and stuff like that. Kind of getting more serious into streaming stuff locally, and using this for events would also be kind of super awesome. Because if you think about it, OBS is great for speedrunning stuff, right? Because you have all this text information and automation, and you know, you squish the game in there, and the webcam's there, and all this super compositing is awesome. But when you have local things, like even kind of the intermissions at a speedrun marathon, or maybe you're just like doing a band or something, you don't have any of this. You literally have just the camera that you're cutting between. You could create a source for each camera, but then you have to make sure everything's in sync. You know, that audio has to switch between. It's just clicking 1, 2, 3, 4. You could do numpad kind of numpad hotkeys to switch between scenes, but overall it's kind of personally. Plus, a computer's a lot to bring. Most people don't have very small computers when it comes to streaming. Like this computer I'm using right now is really big, and even this remote computer that I have, it's a Dell Optiplex mini tower, and that's still hefty. Meanwhile, this A10 mini here is just the size kind of like a tablet. Actually, surprisingly, this is not expensive, and that's why these things are always out of stock. If we take a look at AV Shop, which is where I bought my Mini Pro from. So this is the regular Mini, 435 Canadian. It doesn't stream on its own. Where's the back? This can't stream, and it only has the webcam out, which kind of sucks. You'll notice that on the top, there's no go live button or anything like that. It's just a very basic webcams kind of video switcher, 400 Canadian. I got the Mini Pro, which is not in stock, which sucks. But you'll see that it has like a go live record, because this USB output, if you're not using it to a computer to act as a webcam, you can hook up hard drives or SSDs via USB and then record directly to that. So what my plan is actually almost to never use it as a webcam, and instead to use it to stream directly to RTMP. And if I need to pull that, I'll pull it with local. It'll be of a higher quality than using the webcam out. And that way I can record from the hard drive, and I can even record the stream locally with a laptop or something as well. So there's two recording sources. This also has a multi-viewer out. The cheaper version only has what you've clicked. And then there's this super expensive option at 1,300 Canadian dollars, where it also records every single HDMI input as its own thing if you have a hard drive hooked up, which I don't know if I'll have a hard drive hooked up all the time. And around $500 difference for that ability when you can just hit record on a camera is not worth it personally. Maybe for other people it is. So I'm just going to wait. Does it have bitrate? No, it does not, as far as I can tell. So that's kind of one of the things I want to do as well. If I have a high quality output coming from the stream built into here, then I can recompress on a computer if need be to a smaller recording or a smaller stream. So if the internet is not that good, I could local record the high quality and then stream the low quality. So that's kind of one of the things I want to, it's one of my plans to do with this. A lot of people just kind of don't care because they live with really good internet connections, but I don't, and don't plan to if I ever use this kind of in a bar or at a wedding or wherever I might use this. But so this is 875, right? The A10 Mini's 430. If we look at regular switchers that they have here, ignoring all this kind of cheaper stuff, the A10 Mini, the cheapest version, is right here at the bottom. And these aren't real switchers, so it is super bang for buck. And if we continue kind of down this pricing, it's still here. The cheaper, there's this cheaper roll-in switcher right here that only does, see, look, it only does 2 HDMIs. It does have a preview and it does have an out, but it has no streaming built in whatsoever. It is only just between 1 and 2 videos. You can only pick between left and right. That's it. And that is 839. So for 875 Canadian, you get 4 inputs instead of 2. Plus it streams directly. Plus you can record to a hard drive, or also have the option of using it as a webcam on a computer. I don't know too much about other Blackmagic hardware beyond their cameras, but this video switcher in particular, there's a reason why it's always out of stock. It's because it's massive. You can build a computer. You can barely build a computer that would be able to handle all this streaming for that price. So, because once you take into account the quad capture card, as even if we take a look at a Blackmagic quad HDMI capture card, which I know is here somewhere. Here it is. Quad recorder. this capture card costs $805, and you need a computer that is capable of running it because it's a full PCIe 16 slot. A lot of computers don't have enough PCIe lanes to be able to handle a graphics card and a 16 times capture card after, hard drives and everything else. So you need a reasonable computer to handle this. So you're looking at Xeon or Threadripper or an i9 or something like that, i7, depending on the generation. Basically not consumer level, but workstation level. So whatever the computer costs, plus this, that's very expensive. And this is on the cheaper side of a 4-input HDMI capture card. Do you think GSPS would benefit from that HDMI switcher? Yes, in a sense. Essentially, if you have intermissions going on with hosting or anything like that, or you plan to do a smaller event, let's say I didn't really watch it, but the GTA kind of event that happened where it's only one computer, one game capture, the one webcam and the layouts. You could, in theory, run all of that on just the A10 Mini Pro. It's a little bit clunky because it doesn't actually have, it has 3 layers, but the layers are very specific because does have the option where if you actually hook it up with HDMI, there's a Photoshop plugin you can have where you can just take images and it will actually put those images on top of the video sources. So if we actually find Blackmagic's website here, you know, let's go down a little bit. Oh, if you have Blackmagic cameras, it can also record. It can also control them, which is kind of cool. But yeah, see, there is graphical overlays. Oh, and it also has a digital mixer built in. You can add like compression and equalization and stuff on the audio side, which I plan to use because that's kind of cool. You can also control it with a laptop as well. But yeah, see, you have graphical overlays, and in this they have the one video, a second video, and the graphics. So that is entirely possible to do. You can have actually 3 video sources at once, but the one video cannot, it would be full screen. So basically, you can the scaler built into it can only scale so many sources at a time. So like you would make your webcam kind of fit in where it's supposed to go. You would have your big camera with people. So let's say that person would be on the right, and then you would chroma key your third source, which would have your graphics. So it would require a lot of planning, but you could potentially run a whole little speedrun event on an A10 Mini Pro, which is what I plan to do at some point, as long as I can actually get, as long as, COVID stops being a thing and people can kind of hang out. But as you can see, you have like the Pro and the ISO Pro, they have the multi-viewer, so you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 sources, your preview, and your program, so you can see what you're about to switch to. It'll tell you if you're recording, how long you've been on air, your audio. This doesn't exist on that $400 one. And you see it has all the audio stuff built in as well. So it's as a switcher, it's really cool. I can see a lot of people getting these, and they do. That's why they're constantly out of stock. I've also noticed that my camera feed keeps getting darker as outside it keeps getting darker, but it is what it is. So yeah, I have mine on order. I'm just literally waiting for it to show up, and when it does show up, I am going to definitely do a stream with it. My plan is to use the A10 minis to stream specifically. I won't be using my computer, so that'll be fun. And then another thing as well that Blackmagic announced with the newest version, the ISO Pro, but doesn't exist yet, is the streaming bridge. And basically this just takes the RTMP output that it spits out and gives an SDI and an HDMI, which you can do with a Raspberry Pi. There's actually videos on how to do that. So in theory, you can play back the streams over HDMI as well. Don't know how much latency there is because a lot of the people who kind of play around with this aren't Linux experts and Raspberry Pi experts, but that'll be something I want to try out as well. So hopefully I get one sooner than later. I missed out. I should have ordered it last week when they were still in stock, but I didn't want to use a credit card for it, even though I ended up using a credit card for it. But I had the money. I have the money confirmed for it now, which I didn't before. So just the waiting game. But yeah, these things are super awesome. As you can see, this is American. American is a lot different than Canadian. But yeah. I think that's it. I'm now going to go get a snack and then start working on other things that I have to work on. So hopefully this was super entertaining and educational. So I'll be back. Watch out on my Twitter for when another stream is going to happen. And yeah. Okay. Thanks for stopping by. I will see you guys later.